Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jackie and this is Jacqueismaking, a place where I talk all about the knit garments that I'm creating. And today I have for you a new podcast episode where I'm just gonna walk through 4 of the current whips that I have on my needles. I have one that's halfway done if you consider 1 sock out of 2 socks a finished object. Some people do, some people don't. And then I have 3 other ones, one that is so close to being done, my Cumulus O-Neck. And I also have a brand new test knit that I'm a part of that I'm really excited to show you. If you caught my fall knitting plans last week, I walked through literally my whole queue. I spent like a month, you guys, going over this, trying to really dial down my yarns and what I was going to make, reordering my queue and figuring it all out. So if you missed that, go back and check that video out. In that video, I showed you the yarn that I'm going to be using for the test knit. And today I'll show you I have a little swatch, and then I've also started on the back panel. So that's really exciting. And yeah, we're just in like the throes of the middle of projects, and I'm really looking to kind of close out my summer knitting. So this one that I'm going to talk about first, I am so close to being done. And then I have another tank top on the needles that maybe needs 1 or 2 more weeks. And so I'm really looking to like close those out and jump right into fall knitting. So to get started, let's talk about my Cumulus O-Neck version by Petite Knit. So here we go. Here's the progress that we have. See if I can show you guys this up close, all the way down. I actually thought that this was going to be something I was going to finish up yesterday, and then I tried it on, and it was one of those where you like finally try it on and you're like, no. So it was like still pretty cropped. I'm thinking I'm going to need at least about 2.5 more inches on this, so I'll show you guys that photo there. But yeah, let's see if I can show you kind of in totality. This is what the garment is looking like. So hard to show on screen because it's that bright, vivid white. This is being made in Knitting for Olive's pure silk yarn. It's a 100% silk yarn in the colorway cream. And the O-neck version of this, it's just like a crew neck. The reason why Petite Knit called it that is because she has another Cumulus tee pattern in which it features a V-neck. So that's kind of why she named it like she did. I have a little string poking out there. I'll show you guys a little bit better. But yeah, this is just like a very traditional summer t-shirt. It's made having a raglan construction, and she does the raglan in such a way that you're increasing on either side of a stitch. So it creates this really beautiful raglan line. And I actually was showing it to a friend, and she was like, oh, is that like pointelle? She thought it looked very pointelle in design, which I can totally see. It's very beautiful like that. So I actually, while I was working on this, you know, in the pattern, it says you don't do the finishings until the very end. And that's something that I like to do to keep me motivated. It makes it look more like a garment and makes it look more fun as you're working on it. So I've already done the I-cord bind off on the neckline and then also on the sleeves. And so we have that all complete. And the sleeves I knit to, I would say maybe a couple inches above my elbow. The pattern in particular, Petite Knit, does go all the way down to her elbow, and I just didn't know how much I was gonna love that style. I think it's absolutely beautiful on the right person. Just didn't know if it was right for me, so I did a little bit higher. And yeah, I'm wanting to knit this to a full length on myself, not a cropped length. So what I did yesterday is I tried it on over a t-shirt that I really like the length of. It's just like a very normal Madewell t-shirt that I had in my closet. And that really helped me see like where I'm gonna want it to fit. Another thing I would recommend you would do is maybe try it on with like a favorite pair of pants or just something you know you're gonna like where the garment is gonna hit with that. And that can kind of help you determine how far to knit. You can also follow the pattern, but it's just like every body is different and you never know if it's gonna be long enough or not. This pattern in particular is knit on 3mm needles, or US 2.5s, and yeah, I've just been cruising. It's been one of those that is a little bit of a slog. If any of you guys have been following along with me on Instagram, I like to post there daily just to keep you guys in the loop. So if you don't follow me, make sure you're following me over there to keep up with me during the week. But I've posted, yeah, it's kind of a little bit feeling like a slog. I'm ready to get it off the needles. I'm ready to wear it. And I think just with the nature of this being a plant fiber yarn, it's not as easily moving through my hands. So I've been thinking about it a lot, right? Because like one of the favorite patterns that I knit was the Musselburgh hat, and that was a fingering weight. And I was able to, like, once I was in the round, I was able to just fly. And I've been feeling like with this one, you know, why am I so bogged down? And I'm thinking it just has to be the fiber. I'm feeling it more in my hands. I usually never feel knitting in my hands. I can knit for hours without any sort of issue. And yeah, I've just been feeling it more in my hands as I'm knitting this. So that's not the best feeling, and it makes it so I don't always really want to pick this up, which is why it's been taking a little bit longer than my normal projects take me. So yeah, so that's kind of been it. Plus the combined of the nature of this yarn is such that it's kind of hard to tension, and it just looks a little bit sloppy. So yeah, you can kind of see it here a little bit. The tensioning just like isn't so perfect, you know? It kind of goes in and out. And so for that reason, it's just made it a little bit more difficult to like really see the vision. It is one though that I'm really thinking is going to block well. At least I'm hoping so. I'm hoping with blocking that the stitches will even out, and then also that I get a little bit more drape and a little bit of a better fit up here. When I was trying it on, I was getting a little bit, you know, sometimes with that raglan increase, you get a little bit of gaping. So yeah, those are the two things I'm really hoping to fix with blocking. If not, I wouldn't say this, you know, I would probably just rank this in the middle of like, you know, my favorite knits this year, my least favorite. It's kind of, you know, in the middle towards the lower end just because of the experience of knitting it. And yeah, I'm not sure I'm really gonna love it on yet. I don't see the vision yet. I'm not seeing it yet. So yeah, for this project, I bought 5 balls of the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. Right now, I'm about halfway through my 4th ball, and I still have 1 other ball left. So I'll be surprised to see how much I get into that 5th ball, if at all. I can see myself maybe using a little bit of it, depending on how long I want to go in this garment. You know, I have heard from people that the silk stretches, and so to be mindful of that. I did swatch for this, but I swatched like a little swatch. So I wasn't, you know, super able to see like the stretchiness of it and everything. And it's also kind of a heavy yarn. Like it's thin, but it's heavy. So I could see it in the future, maybe like with the heaviness of it, it just kind of stretching a little bit. So yeah, I'm interested to see, again, just like how it blocks, how that process works, how everything's gonna go with that. I'm hopeful, but I'm not convinced. Let's say that. Okay, so next I have my other summer knit I'm dying to cast off, okay? You guys, I am just ready for fall. So this one too, I'm glad I cast it on because it made me stretch out just a little bit longer. But this is the Sabai top, and I am knitting this in the Sandnes Garn Line. You can kind of see it here. It's a very interesting mock-up if you haven't knit with one of these before. This is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. So it's a very unique yarn, and I love the hand feel of it. It feels very like cool to the touch, and it's quite different than that pure silk in that one, it's a much thicker yarn. This is, I believe, a DK or a light worsted. I'll have to put up on the screen exactly what it is. But It's definitely a thicker, but it's also a softer and definitely more cool to the touch. I am very excited that I knit a summer garment in this, and I can see why it's so widely popular. Let's see if I can show this to you. This pattern comes in two different neckline options. One is just like a stockinette rolled edge, and then this one is a ribbed edge at the top here. And I knit this in the colorway Slate. So you can see how much I have done here. First you knit the front panel, and then you're gonna pick up and knit the back panel. So you can see I have about 9 rows maybe done on the back panel, and I have that front panel complete. And then I'm gonna join both sides together to make that armhole. Then I'll be in the round and I can just knit down. I will say for this one, it's going fast in that the yarn is a heavier weight, but it's an interesting yarn. It's so slippy on my metal Chiago needles, first of all. And I am knitting with 4mm needles, US 6 needles. And yeah, it kind of slips and slides all over the place, which it makes it harder, I find, to go fast because you can't hold like a firm tension and kind of create a rhythm because it knocks you out of a rhythm. So it's like you're going, and then you slip. So then you have to correct yourself, go, slip. You know, it's you can't just kind of get in a really active, therapeutic, meditative rhythm. It kind of knocks you out. So it's kind of my one critique to at least working with this fiber with these needles. I think a lot of people, when they're working with line, they'll use a bamboo or a wood needle. So yeah, so that is this garment. I'm also not sure, it looks like my needle is poking through. I am hitting gauge exactly. And I was hitting gauge in my swatch, and then I've also measured again and I'm hitting gauge. And my garment in particular just looks like a larger gauge than what I saw in the pictures on Ravelry. And I'm not sure exactly, is that because the designer recommended 3 yarns, so maybe the ones pictured aren't using line, and you know, maybe I fell in love with the pattern on a different yarn. I'm not really sure. Or is blocking gonna magically change this? I'm also not sure. So yeah, like size-wise, it's looking great, looking like it's gonna be a garment that fits me well. But just when I look at like how big my ribbing is and how big the stitches are, I'm like, is that how big hers are? I don't really know. It's one of those situations where you start second guessing yourself. And so yeah, I'm just like uneasy about that one too. So that's like a theme right now with these 2 summer garments. They're both like, I'm like, am I gonna like this on myself? Is this gonna turn out? I don't know. It's so much unknowns right now, which is maybe why I'm so excited for fall, because with wool yarns, you know they're gonna bloom. You know your stitches are gonna look beautiful. So it's just with these summer yarns, it's things that I'm not used to, that I'm learning and working through. So yeah, those are my 2 summer garments. I would say for sure those are top priority in getting off my needles just so I can progress into fall. All right, so next I have for you a technically finished object, right? I consider one sock to be a finished object, so we'll call it that. And this is it here. This is Hermione's Everyday Sock, and I use Retrosaria's Mondim yarn. And this is in like kind of almost, I would say like a mock hand-dyed colorway where they dye it to look this hand-dyed. At least I don't think it's hand-dyed. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. Either way, obviously it looks handmade or hand-dyed. This is what the skein looks like. It just has so many colors kind of woven through it. I've been calling this like my Avril Lavigne socks, or like my punk princess socks, because it has that like pink and black and teal in it. But it's pooled really interestingly. So you can see I had the pooling here, then on the heel flap, it kind of went into more of just like a striped motif every line. And then we had a big pool here, and then yeah, more into these same ones that we had up here. And then lastly finished on the stripies. So it's a very eclectic sock. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this type of yarn for this project, but it was kind of one of those wild, okay, wild is not the term. It was one of those moments where I was just like, I love this yarn. I want to make this pattern. Let's combine them. And I don't think it's necessarily a match made in heaven, but it's cool, and they're mine, and they're uniquely mine, right? The only thing else that I really wanted to make sure I touched on this is I did a little bit of a construction for the actual toe of it. So normally I will do where you just like decrease on both sides and then Kitchener it closed. And my friend Kate recommended the round toe. And I think this one in particular is recommended for like a wider foot. But I have just found that it is so much more comfortable. So in my other socks where I've done that other version, I feel like I can always feel the seam of the sock, if that makes sense. Like I can, on my toes, I can feel the Kitchener seam. And I'm just like, I'm aware that it's there. And it's a feature that like in handmade socks, like your other socks that you get from the store, you don't ever feel those on your feet. So it's something that's bothered me, but I didn't know that it was something that I could fix. So I was so grateful to try out this round toe because it kind of gradually closes in on itself, and then you just have it closing. Let me actually take this off so you guys can see. It kind of closes more into a circle, if you will. So it kind of finishes in a circle like this. Feels so funny with my little sock puppet. But yeah, so that is something that I love because now I can't feel that seam on my toes anymore, which is super, super great. But yeah, all in all, I have loved this yarn for this project. I have no idea if it's going to be terrible holding up because it is a 100% wool. It doesn't have any nylon in it. So yeah, I think, this will probably be more of like a home sock for me, at least while I test out and see how they wear. But absolutely, I would love to use this Mondum yarn again in like a garment instead of a sock, just because I love this fingering weight and it comes in so many beautiful different colors as well. So yeah, if I didn't talk about it already, it's funny how like the pooling and the stripes and everything looks so great, I feel, until this part. I like it a lot better on the gray side than this side. So kind of who cares though? They're mine, and this one's finished, and I think the texture and the way that it has that textured part on the leg of the sock and then the top of the foot of the sock, it almost like it scrunches in more, like similar to how a rib scrunches in. I feel like when you have that textured element, it kind of scrunches in more too. So yeah, it feels really good on my foot. And I also feel like I'm finding out that 64 stitch count, I think, is going to be my ideal and perfect like size for my foot, which I'm really excited to have found that as well. So, and now lastly, something really, really fun is the test knit I'm a part of for KnitCalifornia. She's also known as Leslie Howard Forrester on Ravelry. And earlier this month, I knit her Kindle e-cover case. I think it's called Knit e-reader Cozy. And loved her pattern, and I've loved following her for a long time. And she knits a whole bunch of sweaters, but actually one of the first videos I watched from her was like a drop shoulder sweater comparison where she knit like these 3 different drop shoulders and compared them. And then I also learned about the lento from her. She has made a couple different lentos, but I was just really inspired by her like passion for that pattern. And so she decided to design a pattern that's similar in the lento in gauge, but the lento is a raglan, and she wanted to make one in construction that's like a drop shoulder. And so yeah, I'm in the test for that. And it's knit up in a fingering weight plus a lace weight yarn. So I decided to use this 4 Crows Fibers, black and white and dyed all over in the colorway Earth to Sky. And it is just the most gorgeous fall color I could ever think of. I've been so lovingly calling it my crushed leaves sweater because in different lights, this yarn has some different colors in it. You definitely see that orange pop the most, but it also has like some teals, some yellows, and then of course that like zebra-y stripe going through it. And I decided to pair it with the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the colorway Dusty Robin. And I really love these together. I feel like the Dusty Robin pairs with it so beautifully, and the Knitting for Olive colors, man, they're just like so outside of stock colors, which is so inspiring to me, you know? Like when you think about traditional colors that you would find like in art supplies or in fabrics, and in yarns, you don't always think of the types of colors that they're creating. And I find that just like very inspiring as someone who's inspired by color in artwork and in fibers. So this one, like, it's not just an orange, right? It's like a rusty peach. Yeah, it just has so much life in it. And it's so beautiful. So yeah, that is this beautiful, beautiful mohair. And again, paired with this together, I'm really, really excited to see how that looks in a garment. So I swatched for the test knit and I hit gauge on a needle size lower than what Leslie recommended. And the reason why I did that is just because she mentioned that she thinks she's a tight knitter. And the gauge is very similar to the lento. So I did the lento needle size, which is a 6mm needle or a US 10 size needle. And here was my gauge swatch, and I was able to hit gauge perfectly with this. And doesn't that just look so good? I love the way that mohair gave some cohesiveness to such a variegated yarn. It makes it so that like kind of farther away, it looks more just like cohesive and all like one color. And then as you get closer to it, you see these like stripes and the different colors in it, which is so cool. And with this swatch, you're also able to see kind of the airiness within it and that big sort of open gauge. It's very, very soft and, you know, has a beautiful drape to it. But I also think it's going to be something that still holds in warmth and is still warm and is really just like an ideal fall sweater. Something that's not too hot, but that gets you like inspired for the season. So very, very excited about that. And so I do have this cast on. This is something that I'm trying to take slowly just because I'm wanting to finish at least one summer garment first, and then I'm gonna tackle this. And I know I'm not gonna be able to set this down. And I know it's gonna work out fast because it's in this bigger gauge. So what I'm thinking is, you know, since I'm feeling like those are a little bit more of a slog, I was telling myself I need to finish one first, but you know what? Maybe I'll just start letting myself work on this an hour a night. That way I can like have some fun in the meantime, because this is something that is like bringing me joy and making me really excited to knit. And I find it's always really helpful to have something on your needles and something you're like working on while you're kind of maybe getting through a knit that is leaving you feeling a little bit uneasy at the time. So yeah, so for this sweater, you start with that back panel. If you can picture a drop shoulder, it has those panels that go down. This is actually a good example, this sweatshirt. You can see the panel comes down to here. So for this, you're knitting the back panel. Then you're gonna pick up on both sides. So you're gonna start on one side, knit down, start on the other, knit down, and then you'll be able to join in the round and knit down, and that'll kind of make your armholes, if you will. So yeah, I've just barely gotten started on this. Like I said, I think that's actually a really good plan. When I said that out loud, I was like, okay, I think that's gonna be good, is allowing myself some fun knitting, working on this an hour a night, still finishing out those other ones, and I'm making progress on all of them. So yeah, that's kind of like my updates, I would say, on my knits. I did that one. Yep, that's all 4. I just came off a big work trip this past weekend, so I actually didn't get a ton of knitting done. It made me realize, like, I am one of those persons where, like, I do need a good knitting setup, and I'm so inspired by, like, the spaces in which I knit, and I need light and a good chair. And on my work trip, my hotel room was pretty dark. It was kind of bumped. My windows were bumped right up to another building in Chicago. And so I didn't have good light, and then my room was small, so I didn't have a good chair, and the hotel was small. It didn't really have a good seating area. So I was also really tired during the weekend. So I feel like I just didn't get a lot of knitting done. So yeah, and then I came home and I walked into my living room, and just seeing my like beautiful chair and the bright lights coming in, I was like, wow, I think I am more impacted by my environment to knit than I thought. So it kind of made me think to tell you guys, like, if you're in a knitting rut, to maybe find like a new space to knit in that inspires you, because I know that's absolutely something that really, really helps me. So yeah, didn't get like as much knitting done this past weekend, but I'm really, really looking forward to the upcoming weekend. It's actually my husband and I's 10-year wedding anniversary. And so we're going to travel a little bit up north, and we're going to stay in this like really fun, like secluded cabin. I think it's going to be such a beautiful setting for me to knit in. Hopefully the weather is good and it's not too buggy, so I can sit outside, but if not, like inside a cabin sounds absolutely wonderful as well. And then I'm going to get to travel to a yarn mill I've always wanted to go to up there, that they have a lot of local Wisconsin sheep yarns, and they just dye beautifully as well. So I'm really excited. Maybe I'll bring my camera with and take some clips to show you guys, but I think it's going to be a really special weekend in that, like, it's going to be just us in the cabin, and I'll be able to like do some knitting, and I think we're going to go golfing together, and I'll probably maybe I'll hit like a couple holes and then I'll just knit in the cart, which sounds like my ideal morning, is just hanging out with him. He loves to golf, and then I'll just get to be knitting, and then probably get to go to that yarn mill. And then it's like such a small town, but they have a really cool restaurant that has like a couple of James Beard winning chefs. So it's very exciting. I love the idea of still celebrating our anniversary, but only going, an hour or two away, and it's small enough that it's easy to get to. It's not too costly, but we're still making the time to make it special and celebrate us and celebrate marriage, which is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm excited about that, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to kind of finish a couple of these garments looking to next week's podcast episode. I do think next week I will do another podcast, just because when I wait 2 weeks, I kind of like there's a lot that has happened in between then. So I'm finding like as I'm connecting more with YouTube, like as an audience, I'm finding my thoughts, I have more things to say and more things I want to share. But sometimes when I take that 2 weeks, it's falling out of my head. So yeah, I'm thinking about switching the podcast to being every week. And then maybe if I have some more supplemental videos, maybe that would be 2 videos in a week. I'm not totally sure. I do have like one more update that I'm really excited about if anybody's still here and cares about my personal things. But you may have noticed from some of my videos that like I sometimes struggle with lighting, and then also sometimes my editing can vary quite differently from video to video. And for sure, like camera stuff, I'm totally still figuring out. But the biggest thing with my editing is I have an iMac that I currently edit on that has just been running so slow. I'm just having so many issues with it. So sometimes like I'll edit a whole video. I did this a couple weeks ago and I completely lost it. It was like 5 hours of editing down the drain. So, I'm switching back and forth in between computers all the time. I'm trying to get stuff done, and it's been a little bit of a headache. So my husband and I have prioritized getting a new laptop. We just ordered one last night, and I'm really excited to have a fully functioning, like fast running machine. So I will be more excited to edit videos and make content for you guys because it's going to be something that first of all works efficiently, but also is like new and fun to use. So I'm really, really excited about making content. Like I think it's going to take a couple weeks to ship, but it's going to be so fun to just work efficiently and not have like the spinning ring of death like I currently have on my Mac, and just be able to actually create in the way that I want to create for this channel. So yeah, look forward to that. I am hopeful that my content will continue to improve as I do that. I'm also thinking about like everybody, thank you so much for all the love on my knitting plans video last week. I'm really thinking about making maybe another like knitting for fall inspiration video. So not necessarily the things that you're going to be seeing me make, but maybe some more inspiration and maybe the patterns that didn't make my cut, but the things that I'm still inspired for fall. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe doing that as a supplemental video. If you guys have anything else you'd love to see from me or some favorite videos you've been watching lately, I'd love to hear about that down below as well. I love to remind you guys this, I make these videos for you. So any ideas or anything that you have, any helpful critique you ever have for me, it's always taken just with a smile on my face. I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you watch. And it's fun to create this community, but it's also fun for me to improve and make this better for you guys as I continue going. So yeah, thank you all for being here. If you are new, I would love if you would consider subscribing. It really helps me as I continue to grow and make content. And yeah, I hope that you guys finish out your July strong and you're looking forward to all that August has to offer. I will see you guys next week with another podcast episode. Bye-bye.